runway 8 right, ExitJet 825.
ExitJet 825, turn next taxiway. ExitJet 825, exit runway when able. ExitJet 825, contact ground on 120.35.
120.35, ExitJet 825.
123.123, contact Miami departure on 125.5. Good day. (123.123), did you copy?
decimal 5 for 123.12 tree. Miami departure 123.12 tree is passing 5,100 feet, climbing 9,000 feet.
123.12 Miami departure altimeter 29.9 tree, continued assault as planned. 123.12 tree, contact Miami Center on 123.775. Good day.
123.775, 123.12 tree. Miami Center 123.12 tree is at 7,600 feet, climbing 9,000 feet.
123.123 Miami Center altimeter 29.9 tree, continue to deal as planned. 123.12 tree, climb and maintain 15,000 feet.
Climb and maintain 15,000 feet 123.12 tree.
Tree climb and maintain flight level 220.
Climb and maintain flight level 220 123.12 tree.
Tree contact Miami Center on 132.15. Good day.
Going to 132.15 123.12 tree. Miami Center 123.12 tree is passing flight level 210 climbing flight level 220.
123.12 tree Miami Center, continue to Perth as planned. 123.12 tree climb and maintain flight level 320.
Climb and maintain flight level 320 123.12 tree.
Southwest 2627, you are tree 7 miles northeast. Descend and maintain 10,000 feet. Expect ILS runway 10 left approach via Foxtrot Lima Lima transition. Cleared to Foxtrot Lima Lima.
Descend and maintain 10,000 feet. Expect ILS runway 10 left approach via Foxtrot Lima Lima transition. Cleared to Foxtrot Lima Lima Southwest 2627.
Tree climb and maintain flight level tree 80.
Climb and maintain flight level tree 80 123.12 tree.
Southwest 2627, contact Miami approach on 133.775. Good day.
Going to 133.775, Southwest 2627.
Tree, contact Miami Center on 132.45. Good day.
132.45 for 123.12 tree. Miami Center 123.12 tree is at flight level tree 55, climbing flight level tree 80.
123.12 tree Miami Center, continue to Mars as planned. 123.12 tree, contact Miami Center on 132.25. Good day.
Going to 132.25, 123.12 tree. Miami Center 123.12 tree, flight level tree 80.
123.12 tree, Miami Center. Continue to SEAZY as planned.
We're going to go over the FMC computer on the plane and go over setting up a flight route.
Hopefully give you some help start estimating time to ensure that's like that. Radio nav, speed and performance. So let's go through each one of those database, but that's all we have in this flight simulator now. In real aircraft, this will actually cover the dates you're on, and you have the backup database built into it as well. Primarily so that you can have, well, you have the other one ready, but also in case of any sort of corruption of the other database, you've got a backup. There we go, so that is now checked. Now we change that, we can go from D to I, init A. So that's about init, which is here, and I'm going to press init. And this is called init A. There is an init B. If you press the arrow, this is init B. You want to be on init A, which is the core of what we're setting up, loading our routes and so on. So into here, I'm going to enter the route. Now I'm getting it from SimBrief, and hopefully I can put up a picture of this on the screen right now. SimBrief is an excellent website. I'll put the link in the description, and it allows you to generate flight plans with fueled and so on, and realistic airways. Now, if you don't want to do this, you could load in the route directly from Microsoft Flight Simulator, which lets you do it on the main page where you set your departure and your arrival. But I'm going to show you how we will do it in the aircraft without any other information, or without any other preloading, sorry. So we're starting in EHAM. So in principle, in the MCDU, you type it in, and it appears at the bottom here. If you see amber boxes or anything like that, it means it needs information, so you're going to need to give it to it. So you type it in and copy the format that you see. So we need EHAM / that's Rob. We're going to Rome, which is LIRF, Rome Fiumicino. So these amber boxes are telling me I need to put that in. And there we go. Now it takes me to this screen, and it's saying there are no company routes stored. Sometimes airlines will have routes loaded into the database, and that way it would appear company route 1, 2, 3, and you can choose one of
127
those,
decimal 2
and
for
it will already know the route,
123.12
High Wycombe
tree.
Airways and the waypoints.
Miami
and so on.
Center
We don't have any, so we're gonna return.
123.12 tree flight level
And there we
tree
go, it's
80.
loaded that in. Now it's automatically generated a few things here. 345 is there because I told Flight Simulator that was my flight number for today. So I'm going to put in my actual call sign, SIM 245, which is what we have. That's what air traffic will see when they're seeing us on the radar. Alternate airport, again, SimBrief will tell you this. For us today, it's Lima, India, Romeo, November. So it looks like November. Cost index. Again, this will come from your flight plan. There's all sorts of cost indexes used. The higher the number, the faster it is and the more fuel you burn. So typically anywhere from 0, 30, somewhere around there. So let's go, for example, 70 as a cost index. Cruising flight level, it's chosen to flight level 360. I want to cruise at 330 according to my SimBrief flight plan. So I'm going to put 330 slash. And it should automatically give you the temperature. That's the temperature you can cruise. You can change that if you know the temperature is going to be different. Right, so that is init A done. We've given it where we're going, and we've told it flight number, cost index, so it's calculated a few things, what cruising flight level we're using. Excellent. Now let's go to flight plan. So here we go, flight plan is the next step, and it's totally blank. We've got from EHAM to LIRM, the self minus WSM. So how are we going to load in the flight plan? Well, to start off with, we need to know much more to use. Again, SimBrief will tell you this, but you can load it in on the Flight Simulator homepage. When you're setting up the flight, if you simply select the sort of airways you want to use, so high altitude airways, for example, for this sort of flight, and then you can choose the SID and star. Once you have selected it, you'll see it drawn on the map, and hopefully it will connect to your flight plan. This is where SimBrief is really useful because it will automatically connect the route. So your SID and your star, your SID is your departure, your star is your arrival. As you can see here, selecting a VOR arrival and a star. They'll tie up if you use SimBrief because it will choose the right star for the waypoints on your flight plan. But what I'm going to do is enter it from my SimBrief generated flight plan. So that says I'm going via Rendy. So select the airports that you're departing from. So this press flight plan once to get to this page. Select next to that airport, so that's this key up here, and then it takes you to this one, lateral revision from EHAM. But we want to put in our departure, so let's put departure. And today I think I'm departing from runway 24. Now, if you're not sure about this, you can use air traffic control, which will give you clearances, and that's how you normally find out in real life. It would just depend on what runway that airport is using. So this press flight plan once to get to this page. Select next to that airport, so that's this key up here, and then it takes you to this one, lateral revision from EHAM. But we want to put in our departure, so let's put departure. And today I think I'm departing from runway 24. Now, if you're not sure about this, you can use air traffic control, which will give you clearances, and that's how you normally find out in real life. It will just depend on what runway that airport is using, and so on. You want to take off into a headwind, so that would be the main sort of criteria. But if I put in runway 24, and then I'm looking for the SID that matches up to my flight plan. So that is the Rendy CN, so it's selected over there. And there you go, we've got runway 24 with my SID, and there's no transition available on this, so that's fine. If I click these arrows, it just lets me re-choose. So if you want to change your mind, I could go in and choose another runway like 09. And I'm happy with 24, so let's go back to runway 24 and runway 0. Now, you normally check that against your chart, but as we don't have that today, you can see on the back here, or you may not have it at home. You want to use Navigraph, you can, and that's what I use, but it does require a subscription. What we can do is just check that this looks roughly sensible. So I know I'm going southeast down to Rome, so if I go to plan here, which is straight, and I've got this which is the range set to 10. Now I can just scroll through the waypoints in here with that little arrow and it flies along, and it shows you on this screen where the airplane will go. So that all looks pretty good, and that's going to take me out to that waypoint at Duplo. Okay, great. So a Duplo, my SimBrief agrees. So from a Duplo, I'm going to take an airway. The airway is Zulu 739. So again, select that point. You're going to fiddle with the route from.
12312 tree, contact Miami Center on 134.55. Good day.
134.55 for 123.12 tree. Miami Center 123.12 tree, flight level tree 80.
12312 tree, Miami Center, continue as planned.
And then the two waypoints, so the way you get next to that point, you're going to fit it all with the route from Adupo, now select the airway. So it goes to Adupo. Now I'm going to join the airway, Zulu 739. Zulu 739. You're going to fit it all with the route from Adupo, now select the airway. So it goes to Adupo. Now I'm going to join the airway, Zulu 739. Take that airway up until the point in Lisco. Insert that there. So now it goes to Adupo. So from Adupo, I'm going to take an airway. The airway is Zulu 739. So again, select that point. You're going to fit it all with the route from Adupo. Now select the flag along, and it shows you on the screen where the aircraft will go. So that looks pretty good, and that's going to take me out to that way, Adupo. Okay, great. So Adupo, my Simbri agrees. So from Adupo, I'm going to take an airway. The airway is Zulu 739. So again, select that point. You're going to fit it all with the route from Adupo. Now select the airway. Okay, great. So Adupo, my Simbri agrees. So from Adupo, I'm going to take an airway. The airway is Zulu 739. So again, select that point.
12312 tree, you are 57 miles southeast. Descend and maintain flight level 260. Expect ILS runway 1 left approach via Lagoon transition. Cleared to Lagoon. 12312 tree, you are 55 miles southeast of Tampa. Contact Tampa Tower on 119.05 when inbound on the approach.
Tower on 119.05 for 123.12 tree. Tampa Tower 123.12 tree, 54 miles southeast inbound ILS runway 1 left approach.
123.12 tree, Tampa Tower. Altimeter 29.9 wind 018 tree. Cleared ILS runway 1 left approach.
Where you come off that area goes twice. So from Lisco, I'm going to
Cleared ILS runway 1 left approach 123.12 tree.
Lisco. And now I can type it into this page directly. For example, if you're not using Airways. So Flight Simulator may, if you use Flight Simulator to generate your routes, it doesn't always show you the airways, it just gives you all the waypoints. So if you'd like to tune those in one by one, you can. It's more time consuming. But to do that, I simply type it in. So Charlie, Oscar, Lima, and it's going to go below Lisco. So Lisco is this one here. So Misco's there, so I'm going to select it there. Now normally it will let me put it in, but some Charlie, Oscar, Lima, and it's going to go below Misco. So Misco is this one here. So Misco's there, so I'm going to select it there. Now normally it will let me put it in, but for some reason this doesn't allow that. So if it doesn't work there, you put it in the one below. Now these are all, it would normally tell you the distance away from you, so you don't get the wrong one. And I can see that this one's at north, but for some reason this doesn't allow that. So if it doesn't work there, you put it in the one below. Now these are all, it would normally tell you the distance away from you, so you don't get the wrong one. And I can see that this one's at north 50, whereas that one's at 40, quite a long way away. West 74, whereas it's like east. So I know that's the real I've done it before. Charlie, Oscar, Lima. It should really be the top one on that list normally, because that should be the closest one, and they're never that close together unless it's the same sort of waypoint. So there we go, insert that. And from Charlie, Oscar, Lima, we go direct to Ritsu. So again, I can do that straight in this page. Ritsu. Put it in there. And insert. Scroll down. Ritsu. I'm going to take an airway again. So select next to the waypoint, and you can see it doesn't have to be at the top of the screen. Pick the waypoint so it's there, so it's the one next to it, then airways and Ritsu. it tells me up here actually airway from Ritsu. The real Airbus wouldn't show you all these old ones. And it's become a problem in a second. We'll see why. Ritsu, and then Upper Lima 607. From Ritsu, Upper Lima 607. I'm going to take that to Abuja. Upper Bravo Lima. Okay, so there you go. It seems to change its mind as well. I'm not sure what database it's using, but it's decided on its own airway. Sometimes it seems to do that, which is not what the aircraft does. I don't know why. And there we go. Now, here's the problem. If I wanted to go from Abuja on another airway, it doesn't let me. There's no way for me to scroll and do any more. So, like I was saying, the real aircraft, I would select now Abuja and Airways, and I'd be able to type in a whole fresh page. But it doesn't let me. So how do we get around that? Well, luckily, as you can see, our flight plan wants us direct to Batter. So I'm going to type that in. Batter, insert. But now we're a bit stuck, because I can't actually put in the airway. From Batter we're supposed to take the Mike 738. It won't let me do that. I've tried all these different things, so it seems to just have that limitation. So all I can suggest is I'm going to skip the airways and just do the waypoints. Now that's not how you would do it in real life, because some of these airways may have turns in them. But here we go, Batter to Adosa. And I can actually keep doing that. I don't need to keep inserting. So Adosa should take an airway, but it won't let me. So let's go Lumav. Put that in there. And you can draw out the route, see. Then it should take another airway, but it won't let me. So Gavra.
JetBlue 791, follow the aircraft on final. Windcom cleared to land runway 1 right.
And then Riteb. And as you can see, you can just type it in and then just insert it
Cleared
at
to
the
land
end.
runway 1 right, JetBlue
Now, Riteb is the
791.
last waypoint I'm going to enter in as the flight plan, and there's a reason for that. What I will do is, just before I do anything else, we go back to our normal cockpit view, and we can now just have a double check that this route looks sensible on our navigation display. So if I press flight plan, it takes me to the start. Then I can press this little, it looks like it's pointing up, but it scrolls down through the mist. So there we go, along the route we go. Let's zoom out on the range and you'll get a sense, and you can see that, yeah, that looks sensible. That is a sensible straight route down to Rome Fiumicino. But as you can see, Riteb is the final waypoint on the flight plan before the arrival. Again, you'd need the charts if you want to go and use Navigraph for that, to show you what these arrivals should look like. For here, we're just going to set it up. My ILS video, I talk a little bit about the charts, so I show them if you want to use them. Right, so now, because I've got up to that waypoint, which is the start of the star, it's called, the terminal arrival, I can now choose my arrival. So let's select the airport next to destination, LII. So select here, just as we did earlier, except now it says arrival, not departure. So let's select arrival. And I'm going to select whatever I expect to do. So I'm hoping for the ILS. So runway, let's take 16 left. Again, you'd look at the weather, or maybe air traffic will tell you if you need help setting up the approaches. I've got other videos on that, or I will certainly do soon. Right, I wanted the ILS 16 left. It doesn't seem to have it. That's unusual. Okay, let's do an ILS onto 34 right instead. And it's got a Bayern Netten, it's done that automatically. You can see up here, this yellow line shows what I've planned in, and it actually looks pretty sensible. It goes around from the south, round and into Fiumicino. I know that my star, which is currently not showing, is the Riteb. So I'm going to go to Riteb. Scroll all the way through. Again, these are slightly out of date as well, so your charts may not match it if you do go for the charts, but there we go. Riteb 2 kilo. And now, it's got some extra bits in it. It goes Riteb and then around these points and that's more accurate. So we've got the ILS approach that we want via a waypoint and star that we've chosen. So I can insert that. And now that's done. That's all in green. If I go to flight plan, let's go back to our cockpit view and we can scroll all the way through. And if I zoom in now, we'll get to see that arrival. Around it goes and in onto the ILS. And we've got the constraint list, so we can see the altitudes it wants us to be. And that's useful if you're going to go and fly the ILS, because as long as you're at these altitudes, you should be able to then intercept the ILS. I have a video on the ILS if you need help with that. So that is the flight plan page. Some things to note about this page. Now it shows us an expected arrival time, although it shouldn't really do that. It should show you the time it's expecting you to take on that route, and also distance 783, so we can check that roughly against the flight plan we loaded to make sure it's sensible. And in real life, we would check these things definitely to make sure it's roughly accurate, or should I say accurate. Okay, so that is the flight plan. Now we have S for secondary flight plan, where we can load up another of these, which you might be able to use if there's a change of runway, something like that. Sadly, it does not work in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 Airbus, the default Airbus, so we can't use it today. Next will be radio nav, so RadNav here. Now you can see it's already tuned the ILS at the other end. That's into Rome, the ILS 34 right. But you might want to tune in a VOR here for your departure. Depends on your chart. Now these days, a lot of these departures are RNAV, so you wouldn't bother because it would automatically tune what it thinks is necessary. And RNAV waypoints are based on their points in space, so they need GPS effectively or some sort of high accurate navigation. This is more for if you're flying a conventional departure where you need to use a VOR. So for example, around Amsterdam, there is a VOR called the Sierra Papa Lima. Now a VOR is a navigation aid. I can type that in. Oh, no, it doesn't let me do it that way. / Sierra Papa Lima. Oh, it doesn't even let me do that. That's normally how you can type it in. So it wants the frequency. So I'm going to leave it as automatically tuning because it's an RNAV SID anyway. But that's what you might choose to put in there. Or maybe an NDB if you're using one of those. So for example, a departure that said climb straight ahead to 6 miles on this VOR and then turn left onto a radial, things like that. Slightly more advanced navigation stuff in terms of piloting. Now we've done radio nav, the next page we're going to look at is init B. So again, press init, and as I said earlier, you press this little arrow, either one will get you between the two pages, and now we're on to init B. For this page, hopefully it's set up about right, really. You need to know the balance and performance of your aeroplane. You can check your weight in here, it gives you an idea, but it doesn't really show you the CG or so on, so you need to have seen that from before you loaded up the flight, really, which is a bit of a nuisance. What you can do is, if you know what your CG is from having loaded up the flight earlier, and I'll show you how to do that now. So on the aircraft page, when you're setting up your flight, you'll be able to see a weight and pounds section. In here, you can set it to pounds because we always load fuel in weights, really. I don't know why it'd be in gallons. And you can see over here the Mach. So this is the CG number. So here, in this case, you can see it is 21.6. If you adjust the weight, like if I increase the economy class weight, you'll see it move. And that's pretty much what that is. You'll need to make sure you know the weight in kilograms instead of pounds, so that would involve a bit of conversions, sadly. So what you can do is type in that 0 fuel weight CG into here. So put in the slash and then whatever it is. Let's say it's 26 today, and you can put that in. Now it won't let me do it, so I think it's going to make me demand that I do the whole thing. There we go. So if it doesn't let you, you can type in the whole thing to do that. Up here, taxi fuel, I'm going to put in 200 kilos, so 0.2, so it knows I'm going to burn that. Now, why it doesn't have a trip fuel, I don't know. It should calculate how much fuel it thinks that route will take. Same for final reserves. Alternate fuel, I can take that from my sim brief. So my sim brief reckons the alternate fuel is going to be 1.7 tons, so 1.7. No, it's not taking that either. Oh well, and final reserve fuel, 1.2 typically. There we go, that works. Final reserve fuel, or this final time, is the amount of fuel you need to land with. Even if you divert, you still have this much fuel in tanks. So it's about 30 minutes normally, and that is 30 minutes holding at 1,500 feet above the destination. So in an Airbus, it's typically around 1 to 1.2 tons. Having said that, in a Neo, actually, it could be a bit less. Maybe I should change that to about 0.9. The Neo is obviously burning less fuel. Great. Block fuel would go in here. Now we have 10.6 tons on board. A bit much for that route probably, but there it goes. To get my takeoff weight, now the aircraft should show me this, but we're going to have to calculate it. But that's fine. 0 fuel weight 50.2 plus 10, so that's 60.2 plus 0.6, so that's 60.8. So let's just add those two together and put those in. The landing weight, again, it should calculate because it should know how much fuel it's going to burn. I wouldn't have to type that in normally. Trip winds, you can put in a plus or minus. I don't know if that works. Let's say it's a headwind of 10 knots. So I put in minus 10. Oh, there we go. It calculates a headwind for the flight. Extra time is showing the extra fuel you've got based on the numbers you've given it. So again, it doesn't seem to be working. Landing weight would be my takeoff weight minus the fuel I'm expecting to burn, which is about 5 tons, plus the taxi fuel, so about 5.2. So let's say it's going to be 55.6. There we go. Okay, so there we go. We've now done the init B page. Like I say, normally in the real aircraft, you would just type in the 0 fuel weight and the CG and the block fuel, and then it should fill the rest on its own, pretty much. But there we go. It's, you know, we do what we can. So that's the init B page done. Finally, P for performance. So let's go to there. Now it's currently set to takeoff. You can go through the phases using next and previous phase, but obviously we are interested in taking off. So let's go to the takeoff phase, which is the one it will automatically go to because the airplane knows that's the next step. So take off from runway 24, and then it says takeoff shift. Now, it's rare to have to use that these days. You'd only use takeoff shift if you're taking off from an intersection in an aircraft without GPS normally. What happens in the Airbus is when you take off, it updates the position of the aircraft in its mind, and it needs to know where you're taking off from. But when it has GPS, it can simply update the position using the GPS, so it doesn't need this. So for example, if you're taking off not from the full length of the runway, but from maybe 400 meters into it, it's in meters, you'd put in 400 into there. And there you go, it doesn't even work. Don't know why I talked about it. Flaps, trimable, horizontal stabilizer. So for this one, now this is a bit different. We're going to put in the flaps we want for takeoff. So for today, I think I want to take off flap 1, takeoff phase, which is the one it will automatically go to. There we go. Okay, so there we go. We've now done the init B page. Like I say, normally in the real aircraft, you would just type in the 0 fuel weight and the CG and the block fuel, and then it should fill the rest on its own, pretty much. But there we go. It's, you know, we do what we can. So that's the init B page done. Finally, P for performance. So let's go to there. Now it's currently set to take off. You can go through the phases using next and previous phase, but obviously we are interested in taking off. So let's go to the takeoff phase, which is the one it will automatically go to because the airplane knows that's the next step. So take off from runway 24, and then it says takeoff shift. Now, it's rare to have to use that these days. You'd only use takeoff shift if you're taking off from an intersection in an aircraft without GPS normally. What happens in the Airbus is when you take off, it updates the position of the aircraft in its mind, and it needs to know where you're taking off from. But when it has GPS, it can simply update the position using the GPS, so it doesn't need this. So for example, if you're taking off not from the full length of the runway, but from maybe 400 meters into it, it's in meters, you'd put in 400 into there. And there you go, it doesn't even work. Don't know why I talked about it. Flaps, trimable, horizontal stabilizer. So for this one, now this is a bit different. We're going to put in the flaps we want for takeoff. So for today, I think I want to take off flap 1. So put in flap 1. THS is trimmable horizontal stabilizer, and I'm not going to put a setting in there. Most airlines don't. It is rare to. You can, and it's based on your performance calculations and your CG, which we don't have a way of really showing here in this flight simulator right now. So I'm going to leave it blank, which is what you would do in most airlines. Flex to temperature. Now this is a number where you will tell the aircraft to derate the engines on takeoff. We don't take off using maximum thrust normally in the Airbus. You typically can lower the performance of the engines a bit. It saves fuel, it saves noise, and it saves the engine's life, so they'll last longer. So obviously it's a good thing to do. The basic principle is the higher the temperature in here, the less the less thrust it will use on takeoff. So it does have a maximum and a minimum, and that depends on the aircraft and the engines you're using. So for today, a high flex would typically be a temperature of 69, which would be using the maximum amount of flex that the aircraft can give. It depends on your sea level it depends on the elevation of the airport and the temperature on the day, and if you have performance issues. So if you're taking off on a short runway, you can use a lower number. Maybe we'll put it down to say 50. If it's really short, maybe we'll use more flaps. So we can take off flap 2, and you can even take off flaps 3 in the Airbus. You normally take off flaps 3 on a short runway, but the problem is when you're in the air, you've got more drag. So If it's a long runway, we prefer flaps 1. If it's a long runway with an obstacle in front, then definitely flaps 1. And you've got flaps 2 as well. I mean, normally airlines will have a performance tool for doing this. What's interesting about the Microsoft Flight Simulator Airbus is it doesn't seem to change these numbers until you actually change the flap lever position. So there we go. So I'm going to put that to 1, which will be typical for a long runway like Amsterdam. 50 degrees flex, so we're going to use a fair bit of thrust. Engine out acceleration, so if an engine fails, when do you want the airplane to accelerate? 1680, that's absolutely fine. It's about 1500 feet above the runway, slightly more actually, because we're in Amsterdam, which is slightly below sea level. Thrust reduction acceleration, it says 1500 slash nothing, so let's put in slash 1500. And that's quite normal. So the airplane will climb in its normal takeoff modes up until 1500 feet, and then it will lower the nose and try and accelerate. It should climb somewhere around V2 plus 10 up to that point. Now we do know that there are some glitches in the Airbus in Flight Simulator, so some of this stuff does not work like I'm describing, so don't be alarmed if in the simulator that happens to you. It's not your setup usually. There are some things about it that are not quite coded quite right. I don't think it needs a little bit of work, the takeoff phase certainly. But there we go, so that's normally adjusts to the elevation automatically. So if I was in Geneva with about a 1500 feet elevation, that would say 3000, 3000. Now again, in Flight Simulator, it doesn't do that. So you need to work this out based on where your current altitude is. So you can look that up here. I'm currently at 0, assuming you've got the correct QNH set, which I have today, which is at 29902 or 1013, and it's at 0 feet. So as long as your QNH is set correctly on there, which you can get from air traffic control, you'll be able to then enter the altitude into here that you need to be. So 1500 is good for today. And the V speeds are here. V1, that's the speed where we have to continue the takeoff once we go through that. VR is when we're going to rotate the aircraft. And V2 is the speed at which we'll climb away. Even if we have an engine failure, we'll climb at V2 using our takeoff thrust. Once you've done all that, you'll end up with the flight deck looking something like this. And now what we need to do is just check we have done what we think we've done. So I'm going to just set this to HBA because that's what you use in Europe, and it's 1013 today, which is fine. Look at your PFD and check you've got the right modes. So climb blue and nav blue. By being written in blue, it's telling me it's armed, so it's ready in the background. So that is correct. I'm also going to turn on the flight directors. So they are on both sides, so we have one FD2. So that is the guidance that will come alive. It doesn't normally show up now. It will show up when we get into the takeoff. We can also see 128 up there in magenta, which is our V2 speed, and that is correct. That would show up there in magenta. What doesn't show is the numbers below it, which sometimes, or they will show up normally as you're taxiing out, but they don't in Flight Simulator. But there we go. Lever MCT, that is a warning message. Normally that appears when the Airbus wants us to do something. So I just moved the thrust levers there to try and clear it, but it shouldn't be there now. I don't know why it is, but there it is. So you can disregard that because we don't want MCT, we want idle for when we start the engines. So now we've got some guidance. We've got a route. I can set this back to arc. That's probably where most people would have it for takeoff. I can see, oh look, I can see other airplanes. That's pretty good. I can see my route and the constraints that we want to meet. And you might want to increase the range so you can see where you're going. You might have terrain on if there's terrain around. But other than that, that is setting up the MCDU. So we've loaded in the performance. We've got a flight plan in there now, and we've given it some weights and so on. That's all for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. There will be more videos where we cover some of the other pages that are modelled in the MCDU in this Airbus, as well as looking at other aspects of the flight, the takeoffs, the landings, the initial setup from cold and dark and that sort of thing. So do subscribe if you'd like to see more of that content. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again in a video very soon. Thank you very much.